Hi, my name's Paul Grogan, and in this gaming rules video, I'm going to be teaching you how to play Chronicles of Crime, published by Lucky Duck Games, who asked me to create this video as the official how to play guide for the game. Chronicles of Crime is a cooperative game set in modern day London, where you and the other players take on the role of detectives who are trying to solve a particular crime. You will travel to different locations, speak to a variety of people, search for clues at key places, and then try to piece together those clues to try and solve the case. The game uses a combination of physical components and a freely downloadable app to drive the story forward. Everything you do in the game uses up a certain amount of game time, and at the end of the game you will score points based on how many questions you answered correctly and how much game time you've used. So grab your deerstalkers and let's learn how to play. Place the main game board on the table. Take the home location, which is the police station, and place it at the bottom of the board. Place the other locations nearby. The order of them doesn't matter. Place all the character cards and special item cards, the ones with the star, face down nearby. Again, it doesn't matter what order these are in. Take the evidence category cards and split them up roughly evenly between the players. All of these cards are always in play. Take the 4 forensic contacts and share them out as best you can amongst the players. All 4 of them are used in every game, and it doesn't matter if one player has more than one of them, and it also doesn't matter if some players don't have one. Download the app, choose the scenario, and start the game. For this video, I'm going to be using some parts of the tutorial which are included in the app, but I'm also going to create some hypothetical situations to try and avoid too many spoilers. Playing a game of Chronicles of Crime requires using the app, which accesses the camera on your device to scan in the QR codes on the cards provided. If you scan in the code on a location, you are moving to that location. If you scan the code on a character, you want to speak to that person. Scanning the code on one of the forensic contacts allows you to ask them for help on a particular subject. And I'll explain the evidence cards later on. Each time you scan in a card, the internal game timer will increase by 5 minutes, and as mentioned earlier on, if you take too long in game time to solve the case, it will affect your final score. At the start of the tutorial you are at the police station, and the app will have instructed you to take card number 33 and place it at that location. You should always discuss as a group where you want to go to next and who you want to speak to. But at this point in the tutorial, no other locations are currently available for you to travel to, so your only choice is to speak to the police chief. You scan in the QR code on the police chief and start talking to him. A quick note about the character cards, as these represent the people that you will meet during the case. Each character card can represent a different person in a different case. So for example, this guy might be the gardener in one case, and in another one he might be the murder victim. Sometimes during the case you will be instructed that you can travel to a new location. When this happens, take the appropriate location board and place it around the edge of the main game board in any of the 6 slots. And sometimes you'll be instructed to place a certain character onto a location board. This means that this character is at that location and you can travel there to speak to them. Other times you'll be told to take a character card, but you won't necessarily know which location they are at. In this case, you place the character card on one of the spaces of the main game board. You cannot speak to them directly until you find out where they are. So, for example, you might be told that there has been a theft of some rich person's home in Westminster, and you'll be instructed to add the Westminster location to the outside of the main game board. And you might be told that character 15 is the victim and that you can go and see them at their home, so you would place that character card in Westminster. You might also be told that a known jewel thief has recently been released from prison, who might be a possible suspect, but you don't know where they are, so you would place that character card here. At this point in the game, you now have 2 choices. You could travel to Westminster, or you could stay and talk to the police chief. I'll explain how talking to people works first. To speak to a person, you need to be at that location and you scan in their QR code. The app will tell you what that person has to say to you, and then you can start questioning them about other things. And once you're talking to a character, you can scan in the code of any other character or a piece of evidence on your main game board to talk to that character about that particular thing. So, if you were talking to the police chief, you could ask him about the jewel thief, or what he knows about the victim, for example. As the game goes on, you will have more locations to travel to, more characters to speak to, and also collect evidence cards on your main game board that I'll explain later on. Also be aware that the information you get from particular characters might change as the story progresses. For example, you might speak to the gardener in the morning about his tools and he says, "I don't know anything about them." And then later on in the story, when you find those tools in his shed covered in blood and you speak to him again, you might get a different answer from him. And when you're done talking to someone, press the goodbye button in the app to stop the conversation. Moving to a new location is easy. You simply scan in the QR code for the location that you want to travel to. And this uses up 20 minutes of game time. Once you are there, you can speak to any of the characters at that location as mentioned earlier. But also, some locations have the option where you can search the scene. And this is where the 3D glasses come in. You can either attach the glasses to your smartphone and view the scene in 3D, or you can just hold your device in front of you and move the scene around. When you are looking around a scene, you should describe what you can see to the other players. They then look at all the evidence cards and try to match the things that you are describing. For example, if you saw a telephone, you would say, "I can see a telephone." And the other players would take the card showing communication devices. Now, it's very important that this card is not placed on the main game board just yet. Instead, it's placed in an area of potential pieces of evidence. And you will see more than just a telephone. You will likely see many objects in the scene, and other players will gather all the cards together. Once you have finished looking around, another player could have a go. This uses up more in-game time, but could be useful as you may have missed something. Once you have all finished looking, you then scan in the cards you gathered one by one, and the app will tell you a little bit about each one. And most importantly, it will tell you whether or not that card is a clue, and if it is, you move the card to the main game board. This is now something that you can speak to people about when questioning characters. During setup, the 4 forensic contacts were shared out between the players. You can call them at any time in the game for advice. You can speak to the scientist for forensic analysis, for example, for some blood you found on a knife. The doctor can help you with anything medical in nature and autopsies of dead bodies. You can speak to the criminologist for personality profiles of people. And the hacker is very useful at finding out information about people. It's easy to get caught up in calling your contacts and asking them about everything. But remember, every scan you do costs you 5 minutes of game time, so be careful not to speak to people too much. I've mentioned a few times that your final score is modified by how much in-game time you took to solve the case. But that's not all. As time progresses, so might the story. And a particular person might be at home in the morning and then somewhere else in the evening. Or they might have different things to say to you depending on what events have happened during the game. Time is not always on your side. Chronicles of Crime is a different game in how it ends, as you decide as a group when you think you have enough information to solve the case. At that point, you need to head back to your home location and press the Solve the Case button in the app. You will be asked a series of questions, and to answer the questions you simply scan in the QR code for the appropriate card. For example, if one of the questions was who murdered Mrs. Miggins, and you thought it was Henry, the mild-mannered janitor, then you would scan in his card. There will likely be other questions other than who did it, for example how or why, and your final score will be based on the number of questions that you get right, modified by how much in-game time you took. And if you got some of the questions wrong, you could replay the case and try a different route in order to try and find the answers that you missed. I hope you found this video useful in learning how to play Chronicles of Crime. For more of my videos, please subscribe to the channel. And for more information about the game, please visit the Chronicles of Crime website. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.